The career of law enforcement is a vocation of love and service. We're with them at their worst moment in their life. And if I lack the patience, then we are no better than the person that we are there trying to assist. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God.
Welcome to Forge the Man, professional excellence meet vocational clarity. Through the intercession of Mary, Mother of Fairest Love, and the teachings of St. Jose Maria Escrivá, we help Catholic men sanctify their work and find their mission. The forge is hot, the hammer's ready. Let's get to work. Hey, today I have a special guest for us today. He was born in Michoacan, Mexico. Probably didn't pronounce it that right. When he came to the United States when he was 5 years old, he graduated high school in 1981. He enlisted into the Marine Corps, served 6 years, and became a military policeman and attained the rank of sergeant. And then his career spanned 37 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. He came out in 1984. His assignments include patrol officer, undercover narcotics officer in high school, accident investigation, field train officer, internal affairs, instructor, lieutenant, watch commander. Ignacio's just said about everything a police officer could do. I'd like to welcome our guest, Ignacio Verduzco. Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name is Ignacio Verduzco, and I did 37 years, very proud of me, and actually I'm still accumulating years of service because I stayed on as a reserve to do the honor guard for the police department. So we do the ceremonies of fallen officers. So actually now I'm on my 41st year of service, believe it or not. And prior to joining the Los Angeles Police Department, I was in the United States Marine Corps Reserves, which I proudly served for 6 years. And a couple of those years overlapped with my years of service with the police department. And as you mentioned, yes, I was born in Michoacan, or closer to your pronunciation, Michigan, in Mexico. And I grew up in the streets of Los Angeles back when we could still kind of run around on the streets and play freeze tag and hide and seek without having too many problems. Eventually, my family moved to an unincorporated area of Los Angeles, near where the Los Angeles airport is currently, and that's in the unincorporated city of Lenox. So I grew up elementary school, junior high school, and high school having airplanes flying over my classroom and waiting for the airplanes to leave so that the teacher could continue with the day's lesson. Over those 37 years, as you stated, I've served or been assigned to everything from patrol to undercover capacity, the Jump Street 21 Jump Street, working in the high schools, to working prostitution enforcement, to working internal affairs, working detectives, just about everything. I've had the privilege and honor of serving the community of Los Angeles for those 37 years active, and then now in the honor guard.
Ignacio, what drew you to this career?
You know, the career of law enforcement is a vocation of love and service. You have to love serving your community, your fellow, your brother, sisters out there. It's a vocation to serve. And very young in my life, not knowing that I would eventually wind up in law enforcement, I recall an incident that kind of drew me to law enforcement. I must have been an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid at the time. I think the third grade or so, and living in downtown LA area. And there was this incident where this man was chasing this woman, and later on we find out it was husband and wife. But this man chased her down and really battered her. She was about 8 months pregnant at the time. and she ran into my house and took refuge in the house. We were outside in the street playing, my brothers and some of the street friends that were there. And this individual wound up running away from there to try to evade capture from the police. Well, we chased him down. We chased him at a distance and saw where he went, where he tried to hide from the police. And we directed the police to the guy's whereabouts, and they wound up capturing him. The feeling that I got from seeing somebody that did harm to somebody else captured and taken into custody and removed from being a danger to society really compelled me and pushed me towards that. And I think that was one of the pivotal moments in my life where I said public service is something that I need to look into.
You've seen the profession change over the decades used. What is the biggest difference a rookie starting today versus when you put on the badge?
That's a great question. And to tell you the truth, when I started back in 1984, right for the 1984 Olympics, a lot of things come in ebbs and flows. So the support of the community during the 1984 Olympics was at a peak. It was really high. And then you have incidents that occur that kind of brings the trajectory down. You had the Rodney King incident. You had the Rampart scandals. You had things that just create a diminishing morale, not only for the personnel in the police department, but also a lack of trust from the community. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship when these things occur that you start seeing either a lack of trust from the community and a lack of morale from the police department. So again, these ebbs and flows, these canyons and mountaintops that we reach, they're all part of it.
Yeah, it sounds like one incident, maybe only done by a few people, can like paint the whole police department in a negative way. So I think a police officer has to keep that in mind that that could happen. Policing is known for being hard in relationships. What is one piece of advice that you'd give to a young person about protecting their marriage and their family life while working a demanding shift?
The most important thing that I can provide as a working path to a successful career and marriage or relationship is to try to keep them separate. A lot of the things that are happening on the job, you don't want to bring them into to the marriage. You do want to include your wife, your spouse in certain things, but there's a lot of things that you see that it's like you don't want to bring your dirty laundry or the trash into your house and have it polluted by things that are not needed. One of the things about law enforcement is that probably 90% of the time that we're dealing with somebody, we're with them at their worst moment in their life, whether they are a victim of a crime, whether they are the suspect that's being arrested, whether they are the mother, father, brother of somebody that was victimized by somebody else, with the ultimate being a death of the individual. You're dealing with people at their lowest common denominator. And so when you're seeing so much grief, so much misery out there, it's hard to keep that at arm's length, not become jaded, not become so negative towards humanity, and remember that aside from that bad that humanity can bring out, there's a lot of good that we have, and it's incredible how resilient we are as humans, especially if you have faith that you are able to rebound from some of these really tragic events and overcome them. So keeping your family life kind of separate, intertwine it a little bit so that your spouse knows what's going on, because there will be times where you get home and you are so drained from your shift that you're coming home with like Atlas and that world on your shoulders. And I heard somebody say to me many years ago when I was a young rookie, he says, you know what Atlas did when the world got too heavy for him? He shrugged. and let that world just fall off his shoulder. So that's what you have to do sometimes, just shrug and let that come off your shoulder.
Yeah, it seems like you'd have to be very careful not to worry your wife, and then also surround yourself with good mentors and good role models to help you navigate that, especially if you're a young officer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. Finding a mentor who cares about you is one of the greatest gifts that you'll ever have. And it's difficult finding a good mentor, somebody who cares about you, somebody who cares about your growth, about your career, about your personal life. And you'll know that he is a true friend, a true mentor, if he's able to rebuke you when you're not doing things right. It's in our faith, we hold on to the scripture, and there's a specific scripture that is very apropos for mentorship, and that's out of Proverbs 27, which says, "It's better is an open rebuke than a love that remains hidden. Trustworthy are the blows of a friend." So sometimes we have to take those blows, those rebukes, and take them on and listen to what they're saying. Because I think one of my downfalls when I was a very young police officer was not taking those rebukes, not taking that criticism, not understanding that the training officers that I had at the time were trying to get me to a better place and to a better understanding, not only of myself and my faults, but also of my strengths and how I could become a better person.
Yeah, I know a lot of LAPD officers that are very good men, so I think those mentors are out there. They're really out there. It's just that you have to look for them. Ignacio, everybody knows you got to be physically fit, but mentally and ethically, what is the one muscle a young man should be training? Like, is mental preparation. What advice would you give a young man?
One of the things that you have to do is know yourself, because who you are is formed at a very young age, and those building blocks that were made at the beginning, that your parents formed in you. Don't tell lies, don't steal, just don't hit your little brother, your little sister. Things that they're constantly harping on you as you're growing up. They're giving you these foundations, this foundation for you to become the better person that you are. Once you reach adulthood, specifically if you're going into public service and you don't have that good foundation, that patience, which a lot of us lack for, and we struggle with, being able to listen, be an active listener, to be empathetic. So when you ask me what I would ask somebody to strengthen your patience, because when you are dealing with some situations out there, um, and you lack the patience and the resolve to say, you know what, um, I'm here to help this individual. And yes, they're screaming at me. Yes, they're calling me all different kinds of names. Yes, they're doing so much. And if I lack the patience, I'm going to lash out. I am going to do things that I am not supposed to, that I'm going to get in trouble over something that I lack. Because if I lack patience and couldn't contain and control myself, then we are no better than the person that we are there trying to assist. So work on your patience, your physical fitness, your elasticity in regards to being able to be resilient when you see certain things. That will come. You can strengthen that, but be very patient, especially when you're being rebuked and when you're dealing with people that are not in the best state of mind.
Yeah, I worked in the, 92 riots, and in the early 20s, we had riots again, and I watched police officers because we responded with you. And I saw a lot of police officers with like good emotional control, that they did not react in like fashion. So I really admire that. I mean, because sometimes they were spit on or things were thrown at them, but they did not reply in like manner. I mean, I guess that's why you get paid the big bucks, is to maintain a professional demeanor. And so that's really good advice. And then also, maybe in addition, so, you're probably your greatest gift as a police officer is your mind. How often were you able to de-escalate a incident with what you said versus like asserting your authority or trying to, like, in an aggressive way, get control? Can you speak on how you used your intellect and the words to maybe settle down a situation, maybe even tell us a situation where something like that occurred?
That's a very important thing for you to be able to do is to think on your feet and be able to come up with the words to de-escalate situations. It's very easy to point at your badge and say, because I am the law and I'm going to take you to jail, I'm going to take away your liberty, your freedom, and you're going to be in a cell while I'm home having cocktails and dinner with my family. That's very easy to do. But being able to talk somebody into jail, being able to talk to somebody and say, you know what, I understand that you had an incident that brought us to your attention, whatever it might have been. And if I'm able to communicate that, if I'm able to address the situation and give that individual the dignity that he deserves, because we all have dignity. If I'm able to give him that dignity at that point in time where he is at his lowest, then they are able to understand that you are not there as their enemy. You are not there as their adversary. You're there to control a situation and to try to resolve something to the best of your ability and according to what the law dictates that happens. But if you try to, again, use force, whether it be physical force or any type of other force, being authoritative through your demeanor, through your words, then all you're going to do is escalate the situation where now you're actually going to be in a physical confrontation and are going to have to fight your way out of something physically instead of fighting your way out of it verbally.
Yeah, my brother was a police officer, and he used to always tell me that when he was in training, the older officers say, "Hey, let's not go to the mat. Let's avoid that at all costs." Um, Ignacio, you were a commander, and you were a sergeant. You had a lot of roles. You were commander detectives. Can you tell me what are some of the traits or qualities that you really admired in your younger officers or new recruits, or things that you would like to see in a new recruit? What would you be looking for?
One of the key things in law enforcement is initiative. You have to have initiative to go out there because you are you are out there in the streets without anybody that's directing you and saying you've got to do this, you've got to do that. You have to be self-driven and know that what you're doing out there, whether it be traffic enforcement, when you're out there with the community and you encounter people that have their house broken or their car broken, are you taking the initiative and telling them, "Hey, let me show you where the weaknesses were in your house and why they broke in through this window over here because you left it open or there's no lights, no floodlights that turn on in the dark." Or let me show you what you did or you could have done better when you parked to go hiking and you left your purse in the front seat visible to anybody that was walking by instead of putting it somewhere where it's not visible and giving the temptation to somebody. As a young officer, I'd like to see the initiative and not just you. Well, I went in and completed the report. No, well, what else did you do? How else did you help the community? Did you provide additional assistance and resources so that people know what's available to them? So initiative is a big thing. And then aside from self-initiating is also being true and honest to yourself and to your community. You're out there and you're receiving a salary to do things and to provide a service. You're cheating yourself and you're cheating your partners if you're actually not doing, as we used to say when we were still on 8-hour schedules, 8 for 8, and now it's 12 for 12. Are you actually putting in those 8-hour days or those 12-hour days and doing it honestly? Or are you doing something that you're not supposed to and you're actually taking away from your job and not not providing the service that you're supposed to be doing. So that's the integrity aspect of it. So you have to have good integrity because you're out there unsupervised. So initiative, integrity are very, very important things for anybody in public service.
Ignacio, you held a lot of ranks. I mean, you were a commander of detectives. You did internal investigations. You were a sergeant, lieutenant, commander. And I also noticed that you have a bachelor's degree from Long Beach State and a master's degree. Can you speak how important that was in developing you as a well-rounded police officer, and it helped you promote and get prestige so that you could have good influence over those under your supervision?
Yes, definitely. My educational career took as the Beatles would say, the long and winding road. I started prior to joining the military, or actually after the military. I started my associate's degree, but then I took a hiatus when I got in law enforcement. It was after I had my first son. My wife went back to school at the same time, and we said to each other, if we're going to raise a family and if we're going to require from them that they go to school, they can't turn around and say, well, you didn't do it or you never finished. We took it upon ourselves to complete our degrees. So I finished my bachelor degree when my oldest son was still a toddler. And then I promoted to sergeant. And I realized I needed that extra step, that extra something to move me beyond a sergeant. So I went back and finished a master's degree, and that was later on in my life. I think both my boys were in high school during that time period. So I was doing the West Point Leadership Academy during that time and finishing a master's. And it was fortuitous that I did a master's degree in leadership because I was studying leadership through the West Point Leadership at the time. So it kind of overlapped and I was able to combine some of the things. However, I can tell you that trying to keep a family, go to work, coach my kids, do my homework while doing the master's program, I was sleeping about 3 to 4 hours a day in those
Uh,
days, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, and I think I probably, I myself have had some great supervisors, and you really admire somebody with a serious commitment to education and leads by example. So I think that young people listening would be wise to listen to the advice is to like just don't get on the police department, but like develop yourself. We need to develop our intellect and we have to learn a lot of subjects. I've worked with a lot of police officers myself over the career, and sometimes you see the enforcement side, but I saw a lot of times the humor of the police officer. Can you tell me a funny story of the camaraderie of what the other policers, maybe in the locker room or while on patrol?
You know, in the military and in law enforcement, there is a camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood, where we make the day go by pranking each other, doing different little things, sometimes little tiny things. Sometimes they can get a little overboard, but it's all good natured. Nothing like hazing or anything like that. But it's all pranks. It's all good stuff that builds morale. And it's like, okay, you got me today. Better watch out tomorrow because I'm after you. And I recall one incident. I was working in Hollywood, and I don't know what it was about working Hollywood area. It seemed like all of the characters from the police department tended to gravitate towards that police station. I guess they all wanted to be celebrities. I don't know what it was, but you had some real characters that worked there in that area. And there was this one individual who he was the master of pranks and everything from putting the whipped cream on the handle of the patrol car where the police officer would go to open his car and get a handful of whipped cream to tying a string to the police siren. So when the door would open, the siren would turn on and they'd have to turn it off. But I think his his epic glory was he wanted to prank his partner that had his locker right next to him. So what he did is he went to the pet shop and purchased a bag of those of crickets, crickets that they sell in the pet shop for, well, for your snakes or whatever to feed them. So these live crickets, a whole bag of them, and he put them inside of the locker of his partner. Well, it kind of backfired on him because not only were the crickets in his partner's locker, but they went into his locker and everybody else's locker, and the whole police station was infested with crickets. So every time after he found out who did it, every time we'd walk by him, you chirp at him like a little cricket and to remind him, yeah, we know it was you. It was you who did that. But yeah, it was all in fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have a sense of humor to keep sane at times. Well, Ignacio, as we wrap up, today, it's like you said that sometimes public opinion can turn against a police officer, but you know what? When people are in trouble, they're going to pick up 911 and call a police officer. We need like really ethical, conscientious, good people to protect our communities. Can you give the audience something to think about? What?
Well, I'll start it with blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. It blesses us, the peacemakers. So if you are looking for a job that's going to fulfill your sense of belonging, your sense of serving, your sense of being able to give back to the community, and you are a person of integrity, of loyalty, goodwill, of peace, then this is the career that you should be looking to. And the law enforcement is a very fulfilling career. Yes, there's going to be times where you are going to be looked upon as the enemy, but that's going to be a minority. The overall community is always going to be backing you in times of tribulation and in times of plenty of harvest. So just remember that you will be blessed to be a peacemaker, a peacemaker, a peacekeeper. So you will be fulfilled.
Yes, I know. I know maybe sometimes it's kind of popular to be critical of police, but I know when we need their help, we're so happy to see them when they come. Well, Ignacio, thank you so much for your words of wisdom and your time. So thank you for joining us in the Forge today. Discernment isn't a one-time event. It's a daily yes to God's providence. As you navigate your professional growth this week, pray for the courage to follow where it leads. May Mary, Mother of fairest love, be your guide and your protector in the midst of the world. Thank you, Ignacio.
Thank you, Paul.